Alright, we should be recording. I just want to see the files, and hopefully it doesn't crash. I've been having problems with crashing. But I've done some things that hopefully will address it. Time of going. Anyway, yes, this is a heart rate recording for a game that actually shouldn't be all that stressful. I've been stressed by the crashing, which just yesterday was suffering from it, but I've made one change that might do it. Also, let Windows finally update. I've been putting that off for a week or two. Though I wouldn't think that would do it, but yeah, so we'll just see. Hopefully it was just like the specific game or the audio driver, because that's what I changed recently, that hopefully, please don't crash. It's so stressful, and I need these videos soon. But anyway, yes, it is not a stressful game. Honestly, I'm kind of running out of horror games that I feel like playing, and I'm just... It is also one thing where if I get crashing, I might... I hope I don't need to stop doing these videos, but at the same time, I do feel like I'm getting close to where do I really want to keep spending my time doing this stuff. I like playing games, I like having the excuse to play more of these games, but it's just the whole having to find the time to do it, having to put myself through some of the horror games and such that I'm just... I don't want to stop, but I do acknowledge that that time may be coming. And by the way, I know very little about this game other than its name, Abzu, and you're in the water. I am on keyboard and mouse. I don't know if this is supposed to be more of a controller game, but we'll find out. Even though this is a heart rate recording video, I am only going to do half hour. I want to have it last. So yeah, I am, like, abusing certain things to just give me videos. Okay, how do I... Okay. Okay, that's a little weird, but... I'm just figuring out the controls. So it's... Right click is dive, but it is also to just swim. And then it's like flight controls where you just... WASD is controlling the angle, it's not your motion. But okay, alright. Alright, and so far so good with the crashing. I mean, it last time it crashed for me when I was doing a recording in a different game, it crashed very rapidly, so hopefully that does mean that things are okay. And by the way, I'm just doing one recording tonight. It's just been a tiring week, so... So yeah, getting to basically chill, kinda like. Yeah, just things being kinda crazy with work. The crashing. Knowing that I need to do these videos, things like that, just, it's nice to relax on. It is also one aspect to it that it may sound weird, but it is kind of there, that I haven't been able to write, like, for fun for a while. And I do really enjoy that. It would be nice if I could make a career out of that, but I'd need things to sell. Finding a literary agent would help, but that's also a how the hell do I do this kind of thing, so... Okay, what did that just achieve for me? Just, I got a friend now? apparently. At least I was right about one thing. This is a good game for the gaze track. That's why I initially had it on my list of future body on games. There we go. Oh, hang on just a sec. Okay. Wait, what was that? Ah. Okay, I'm not gonna... I'm like figuring them out, so I'm not gonna mess with the controls. Yeah, I was gonna say with the writing, I really do enjoy just writing, and I've taken a break, which, on the one hand, I would like to be back to it. In part because once I finish one story, then I can get to the next, and I want to work on the next ones too. But it's also, that's interesting. It's also, taking the break, I think, is good because, like, I finished the draft in the first run through edit, so I want to do... So, giving me a break lets me forget about some of it, so when I go through it again, I'll be able to... You know, I'll be fresher with it. Like the whole fresh pair of eyes looking at something, kind of like that, except still my eyes. What is this? Can I just hold... Okay, that does apparently work, to just hold down. At least for a time. With the whole trying to find a literary agent is part of their purpose is also something of an editor, from what I can tell. It's like an editor is an editor, but you know, just saying, hey, you know, like these publishers would like it if, you know, they like stories that have this kind of thing, that kind of thing. From what I can tell, that's part of what they do, and I can understand that. But man, I'll also admit I'm jealous when it comes to my stories, in that they are my stories, so I can take feedback, but it's basically when I have been given feedback before, I might not like it, and then it's like I'll still like sit down and write it, but it's like I'm doing the writing still, so. So some ideas, like things getting too specific, feedback getting too specific, I'd probably have a problem with. I just realized I don't want to do the one recording today. It's more than half an hour long. How am I going to, I'm not seeing a way that it really saves. I mean, I assume auto saves, but then where are the checkpoints? I don't know. You know, one other thing about, you know, yeah, a reason why I couldn't make writing a true career probably is I don't think I could ever do deadlines. It was like, no, it's like, I finished it. Now we can start, okay. Okay. And just, you know, the whole, finished it. Now we can, you know, like, start looking at editing, I mean, it's... I cannot promise to get so much done. What is going on in this game? To get so much done in a certain amount of time. Because I've had it where some nights I spend an hour or two writing, and that equates to a page. I've had other nights where that same hour or two is like 2 or 3 chapters. And yeah. I'm guessing that's a checkpoint. You know, it varies. I basically Okay, heart rate monitor is still going. When I first plugged it in, it shortly thereafter turned off. And it's like the battery shouldn't be that drained, so I was confused. And that's why I wanted to check. But yeah, I mean, it's like I couldn't do deadlines. But I could be like, yeah, I wrote it, and then it's like, okay, it's going to be months before this would release. It's like, well, if it's going to be published, going to be marketed such that it would actually sell, I think I'd be okay with that. It's not like, oh, it has to be out right away. Am I supposed to try swimming through these? I'm not. Okay, I think maybe I am. In which case, then I missed one. Ah, well. It's not letting me turn the camera. Now it is. This way. Hey, I'm enjoying this more than Monstrum. I can't say if I'm really connected to the game yet, though, which is one of the issues I had with Monstrum. It is still installed, by the way. I could do more than that. I don't want to, but I could. But yeah, just to me, because it's something to talk about. To me, writing is just. I write a story so that because I have an idea and I want to know how it goes. Like I might know what the ending is. That doesn't mean I know how I get there. I want to meet the characters. They tell me what they want to do, what they want to say. I mean, I can direct them, but you know, it's like I've had times when they're like, "No, this isn't how I would react. This isn't what I would say." And you know what? I rewrite it to be more in line with what they want, and it's better. It genuinely comes out better. So I really. I listen to my characters. I write the stories it wants to be written, and it turns out very well, in my opinion. Well in that it satisfies me. Not necessarily well in that it's actually a well-written story. I can't be a judge of that. And this may sound weird, I don't care. I don't care if somebody says these are terribly written. I don't think I'm that good at writing, necessarily. I am good, but that good? Nah. It doesn't help that I've not really, well, I've had more English classes than perhaps somebody with my normal background would have. But at the same time, that's not to say that that it was enough. It's like I had one English course in college, because that's all I needed. I did take 5 in high school. That was partly just convenience. And I was interested in writing back then. So I did also choose to take the 5th one that was unnecessary for that, but it was also the teacher's one I had before, and I liked him. So, you know, like, filling out my schedule with that, you know, it made sense. It was appropriate. It's also part of the reason why I only took one in college, because like I already had so many credits coming into it. But there's also a part of me that, not that I am, well, I'm anti-credentialism. I'm not necessarily anti-credential. But the obsession with, oh, you have to have a degree I hate that. So I kind of like the idea that I am writing these stories despite not really having the background that should say I can't, which says that I should be doing that. I mean, there's a certain negative connotation to being an upstart, but I do kind of like it when people are like, nah, I'm just gonna do it. I mean, why shouldn't I? But it does also go into the whole, I can't say I'm necessarily a good writer, and I'm okay with that. It's like I've not been educated well enough there to necessarily achieve good writing capability, but I'm good enough. I mean, here, let me try to clarify what I mean by that. I would not be surprised if somebody were to look at some of the writing and be like, yeah, this is more high school level. As far as vocabulary and some of the actual composition, like how the sentences and such are put together, I think that the compositions are varied. So I can, like the larger stories, like I've got one, at least, two maybe. That's like, yeah, I could see middle school. Another one where it's like, no, that's probably more so high school, just because the content, like the PG-13 kind of rating stuff. That's what I mean. That's what I'm referring to. But it's like actual word choice and such. Nah, my vocabulary probably wouldn't be recognized as college level, but whatever. I don't. It's not childish. It is competent, and it's like I'm good with that. And I think if anyone were to say, "Oh, well, you have to be using these college words," it's like, no, I don't, and I'm not going to, and I'm not going to listen to you on that. It kind of gets into that whole credentialism kind of stuff. I dislike the idea that you have to get a piece of paper, which basically just means that you've convinced some number of people that you can do this thing. That's not to say that you actually can, or that you're really any good at it. It's just that you've convinced certain people that you can, and there are plenty of people with advanced degrees that are idiots. So, I mean, and it's also sometimes people are like, yes, we want this degree to do this work. It's like, I don't have a degree to do this, but I've been doing this work for years. But we don't want to talk to you then. It's like, what? I have more experience than somebody who would have been just gone to college to learn this. It's like, nope, we want that degree though. It's like, they're not going to offer you more than me. Nope, don't care. I mean, it's very frustrating, that. So I'm anti-credentialism, that the obsession there. It's like, if the person can do it, then let them do it. And if you need somebody to do it, and they can do it, hire them to do it. So, I mean, it's kind of like this. So, though not for this one, but the Shiny applet, it's based in R. It's a thing so that, and there'll be a description here because I have the heart rate data, where you can look and load up the data for any of the games I've collected heart rate data in, and have the graphs shown, get some stats and all that. I taught myself how to work with R. I taught myself how to work with Shiny. Shiny is not an easy thing to work with, partly because the documentation is not good. I actually just want to explore in here some. But one aspect of it is also, and not for this applet, but for a different one that I made. I did things that I am relatively convinced were never intended by the original developers. But I still figured out ways to do these things. I was like, I'm obviously not going to be as good at it. And there's no way I could develop Shiny itself. No, I in no way have that. I have that capability, but at the same time, I, through experimentation, found better ways of doing things. Well, found ways to do things that clearly they don't intend you to be able to do. And I also wrote up documentation better than theirs. On some other stuff. I mean, it's... Why should I trust in a credential when I know from personal experience that you can just work on something and end up with... Interesting. And end up achieving things that those with the credentials haven't. Plus, there's also the whole who taught the first teacher kind of stuff. You know, it's like this whole obsession with credentials. It's also, well, the first person to get it was given the credential by people without credentials. So the whole premise to it is flawed because you always have the first people that were without them. One thing, though, and maybe this is one thing about if I were to find a literary agent would be helpful, is that I do feel like I'm in the wrong time sometimes. Or at least around the wrong people. Because I don't really know anyone that reads. And it's also weird because it's like, you know, I'll tell somebody, I'll mention somebody, I write stories. I write books, I write novels, something like that, and they're like, oh, alright. I mean, it's like, is it because I've written one that I actually recognize that that's actually a lot of work? Like, that is an impressive feat to achieve. But it somehow, everyone I know, it's like, am I just unaware that everybody knows an author already? I mean, it's like, what? It's very weird. I just chalk it to because it makes more sense than everybody actually has already written stories or knows authors that's like, oh yeah, that's nothing special. I instead just chalk it up to people don't read. They don't really understand what it is to write a novel. And for context, also with that, let me see, we have one story that's, I think it's around 40,000 words. And then we got one that's, no, two that are in the 80,000s. I think one is lower 80, one is upper 80. One that's 100,000. The novel I've written most recently that I've done the editing in, but I need to go back to, want to get back to. That is 187,000, and it's probably going to get longer. Actually will, because I had an idea for some, well, there's something I know I want to add. I want to make sure is in the story. And it's really something that I can only add by writing another chapter. So it's going to get longer than that, which I kind of like, because it's going to be longer than my two longest stories thus far. And I like progressing that way, and it's a big story for reasons. So it's like I am happy with that, but it's like, you know, yeah, 187,000 words. That's an achievement. So is the 100,000 word one. And I just do also wonder, you know, people that don't read, if they also just don't recognize that, yeah, I mean, that takes a while to do. It itself is difficult because, I mean, that's a lot to keep straight and also just a lot to put together. But at the same time, I do recognize for myself, is this the way I came in? checking the chain. Okay, no, it looks like the chain just stops in here. Okay. One thing, going back to the whole, for me, my writing process, my writing style, it is also kind of easy. I am very fortunate with that. I recognize that. But it is like, I've got some some chapters in the story where it's like, all right, I know what I want to do next, but that I want to do like in a couple chapters yet. What do I do now? I don't know. And then it's like, well, okay, here, this idea just came to me. I'll do that. And I end up writing these chapters that it's like, I didn't plan on them. But I start writing them and it's like, I'm not really feeling it. Others where it's like, no, this is actually really good. The characters are giving me good stuff here. The story's giving me good stuff to write here. So it is, also, 187,000 words. I don't know how much I can say was always part of my plan. But it I enjoyed it. So it wasn't that hard to write. But still is. How is it that it's like, oh yeah, I write novels, and it's like, oh yeah, that's nice, whatever. It still seems so weird to me. But there's also something else that is neat. Like the last times I talked with somebody about it, he started sharing with me story ideas that he has and things that he'd like to try writing, and it was wonderful. It was so wonderful to me. Because I felt like I wanted to encourage him. I wanted to provide my own thoughts on things, and not as a. I wanted to give him like, oh, that's your idea. Well, this is how I think I would do it, but not as a do it my way, but as a. I get your idea. I like it, and I'm engaging with it, and do it your own way. But just this is my thought to it. Maybe it helps him. It's like critique is a powerful way to encourage somebody as well. At least if they do it right, and I was certainly trying to. And I know I have about 3 minutes left on the timer. Hopefully, I'm just gonna stop the timer. The next one where I get the big transition, that's when I'll try to stop. I mean, still, I wouldn't say that it seemed like he was appreciating the effort involved with writing a novel, but at least it was, a very enjoyable conversation to have with him. But then there are definitely others where it's like, they have no reaction because, they don't know how to react. It's like, it is an achievement. It is an accomplishment. And I know this sounds like I'm whining, and I kind of am. But I'm not whining as a, pay attention to me, damn it. I'm not doing it that way. It's just, I'm not trying to say that, oh, I'm special. You have, no, it's just how I am. To me, I would see that as an achievement. I mean, it doesn't really matter if it was good or not. But it's, it's still something like that. That's cool. That's impressive. And I don't. It's more so, I do expect sometimes my own reactions from people. And it's weird that for this specific thing, I never get that reaction. And it's so weird. I mean, it's also, to a degree, these videos are also kind of like that, which, the fact that there hasn't been a crash, knock on wood, I'm thinking I will be able to do more recordings tomorrow, that I have, by action or by accident, maybe I have in fact solved it. I hope so. It could also just be that it's the one game, which sucks, but... Although I did have Steam verify the cache, and it, re-downloaded the game, so maybe there was something there. But yeah, so once I'm finished with this, that's when I'm gonna... There we go. That's when I'm gonna stop. Yeah, it probably is just... Well, no, it's not just a me thing, with the expecting people to react like I would. Because it just... the lack of reaction is just still so weird. One thing that I do hope to do, and it'll be months before I can, is to actually give a talk to a scientific body, a scientific group at my college that I'm still involved with, even though it's been so many years, like more than a decade. I'm still involved with, because it's a science thing, and I wrote some science fiction, and I do think that science fiction is important to real science for various reasons. One is just, I do believe that you need an appreciation of fiction if you're going to investigate fact. And there's various ways to try to explain that. I don't remember all of them. I've already put together the presentation, but I have to run through it again. But just, there's an element of, there's some facts out there that seem more fiction than reality. And it's like, well, how do you reconcile that? If you come across something that everything you already know tells you is false, that it cannot be the case, then what do? Do you go about actively trying to disprove it because it must be wrong? Or do you just say, no, I don't believe it? Or do you actually start trying to change how you view things? Also, sometimes you should, in fact, try to figure out how apparent counterfactuals would be. Take something that you believe is true, assume it is false, and then start working out what that would mean. Because you make some very interesting discoveries by doing that. And also just, you should challenge those things that you do most believe to be true. Okay, I guess it has to be here? I don't know. What is this? Maybe investigate here? Yep, okay. But, like, to use one example, one somewhat modern example, there's the, like with climate change. So much it seems to just always assume that that's true. It's like, well, that it's true, and in these very specific ways it is always true. And it's like, well, what happens if you start believing that that's not always true? What if it's not carbon dioxide? What if it's something else? And by the way, fun fact, and it is possible that it has changed since I saw this, but years ago, I did see a piece of meta-research that was very amusing. Because what they actually found was that there had been no research to that point. And this wasn't that long ago. This was in the past decade. There had been no research to that point to actually show that carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. I'm serious. That is in fact what they found. That the oldest papers to make reference to that concept, there were two of them. Both it was an assumption, and both just referenced the other. So they were like, yeah, this is the case, and you can look at this other paper to learn more about that. But you look at it, and it's like, well, they're just assuming it too, and in fact citing the first paper then. So there wasn't actually scientific evidence of that. It was just an assumption, and everyone ran with it. Now, part of the purpose of that meta-research was also to be like, hey, people, we need to kind of do this. And I don't know, I haven't seen since, if that has been done. But that's a hell of a thing to discover, right? Like, I mean, this is something that people are using to try to change the global economy. And I'm sorry, it's completely separate from any scientific merit one way or another. It is absolutely being used to upset the world economy and so that certain people will be enriched. It's completely and utterly that. Because, I mean, there's way too many technologies that they say, oh, we have to use these, and it's like they're not proven technologies, not reliable technologies, and not even good technologies. Where there's alternatives that are better. And it's like, nope, don't care. we're going to do these. And it's like, why? Well, it turns out they have money in them. I mean, it's that is really there. But it's still... But just coming back to the scientific part of it, not the economic side. Because those are different things. Alright. Like I said, gonna quit. But it is just the whole... But how many decades was it where it's like, yeah, CO2 is a greenhouse gas, but it was all assumption. They couldn't figure, they didn't have the evidence. And it's like, that's a problem. So maybe you should start stopping and being like, okay, well, let's challenge all of the assumptions. Let's really rigorously test them, because you may find that things are wrong, or you might find that things are in fact true, but you'll still learn more about them. And that's valuable. That's very valuable. And there's one other thing that entered my mind concerning that. That might have been it, that how with the United States, the whole Paris Climate Accord stuff, the target on that, we were on, no, did we get it? Did we get to a third, or were we on track to get to a third of achieving that? Just by using natural gas. Because natural gas burns so much more cleanly than coal and oil, that by converting power plants to natural gas, we were already making huge strides towards that goal. But then it was hey, no, you have to abandon this. You can't use this. Why? Because fossil, but we're getting so much closer. It's cheap. It's available. I'm saying that this was a good step. It's not necessarily the best step in some ways, but compare that to energy sources that are unreliable, that are fragile, that are extremely expensive, and that require like ground up new infrastructure versus natural gas that they could convert coal and oil power plants to natural gas rapidly and cheaply. In so many ways, it was the best decision, but it's like, nope, can't do that. We have to do it this way. It's like, why? It's like, you do need to challenge some of this stuff, because, sometimes it is well, there's a saying, the perfect is the enemy of the good. That you keep obsessing over this one perfect silver bullet kind of solution, and then all the acceptable good solutions that can be done much more rapidly, much more cheaply, and perhaps not as effective at achieving your end goal, but still very effective, you abandon, you leave. And it's like, well, why? You're doing more harm by not considering those. So it's like, yes, consider the stuff that you think is fiction, because you know what, maybe there's more fact there than you realize, or it'll still stay fiction but allow you to learn more about fact. So yeah, it is a broaden your mind, and don't focus down on a single thing. Because like I was saying with the natural gas stuff, don't focus down and just no, we have to go to solar, we have to go to wind power. It's like, start considering these other options, because with natural gas, it's like, yeah, that's not great, but hey, guys, it can get a lot of the way there, can do it rapidly, so that means then that it buys us time to get solar and wind power into better places. Get that technology developed better and put more of them in. So it's like, you'd still be achieving these goals, but instead it was no, we have to stop that. Stop producing natural gas so we can do that. And what's one of the things that happened from that? Because then it's like, well, we're shutting down, we're not using natural gas power plants anymore. We're not using we're not producing as much anymore. Well, what's one of the translations that, okay, we have to use more of the coal that's already established and is a lot worse. I try not to get political with this stuff, but it's like, it is that kind of thinking that I think is valuable, and that fiction can help you get to, where it's just step back, and consider more. Consider the things that you don't believe are true, but consider them as though they are. Or consider the things that you think are true as untrue, and see where it takes you. It really could take you in some very valuable directions, even if you can't continue down that path all the way, even if it is ultimately wrong. The journey on that path may still really open some things up for you that are worth opening up. That is my larger point. I was just using the climate change stuff as an example. And I don't mean to provoke anyone with specifics, just... Oh, hang on. Okay. the oximeter died. But I do mean to provoke as far as thought. Just stop and consider something that you hold as true. Maybe stop and consider, what if that isn't true? What would it mean if it's not true? And also with it being true, so do one thing, consider it not true. The other, consider it being true. But what is all the meaning to it being true? And you may discover some interesting things by doing that analysis. Just one thing I would stress: don't be deconstructive. Don't damage the thing to try to understand it. Such damage you may find irreparable. There's one thing, and I should really be stopping soon, and I thought that I read, I just don't know where. In The Lord of the Rings, Saruman the White makes himself Saruman the Multicolored, where he took the white and he broke it up into the additional colors, and I thought there was a comment somewhere that the reason that's in there was to show the foolishness of taking this thing that's already good. And it's fine to try to learn more, but Saruman destroyed the white, destroyed the good there to produce these separate colors, and by doing so has lessened himself. So that's what I mean by, don't be deconstructive necessarily, but still try to understand these things better. Think about fuller systems, not just single points, and challenge this stuff. Depending on what it is, respectfully. It's like, you don't want to go overboard, you don't want to hurt it. But it's like, challenge it and investigate. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm sure that's more than enough of my rambling. I apologize to everyone that has chosen to subject themselves to it. Hopefully, tomorrow it will be when I'm doing more recordings, although this will be on a Monday. The tomorrow recordings will start on a Thursday. Hopefully the topic of discussion that will be more interesting. Alright, see you then.